Now we're going to talk about the solar system. And the key word here is solar. And the root there is S-O-L. S-O-L, sol, is the Latin name for the sun. So the solar system is the system of things around the sun. Specifically, it's all the celestial bodies that are bound to the sun by the sun's gravity. You roughly, you basically think of it as the sun and the planets, although there are other things in there besides the planets. And this picture shows the sun and things orbiting the sun. This is the planet Mercury down here, closest to the sun, and then Venus, and then you see Earth and the moon orbiting the Earth, all orbiting the sun, and then there's Mars. And then the next thing out from Mars is this band around here of asteroids. That's the asteroid belt. And then beyond that you see the larger outer planets. There's Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And then way out here, this is Pluto. Pluto was recently declassified as a planet. It was originally considered a planet, but now they call it, it's a separate category. It's what they call a dwarf planet. It doesn't quite fit the description of an actual planet. And there are other things in the solar system as well. This is a comet, for example. There are comets orbiting the sun, even though this one looks like it's about to plow right into the sun, and that certainly can happen. A lot of comets orbit the sun, sometimes in very elongated orbits. And other planets besides the Earth have moons. Mars, for example, has 2 moons, and Jupiter and Saturn have lots of moons. So there's other things besides the sun and the planets. But that's what the solar system is the system of bodies that are bound to the sun by the sun's gravity. Now, one thing to note is that this picture is not to scale. If this were drawn to scale, if the sun were this size, then the planets would be much smaller compared to the sun and much farther away. What this does show, though, is all of the things orbiting the sun. So it's accurate in the sense that it gives a decent idea of the arrangement and the order of things. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars near the sun, and then the asteroids, and then Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune further out. Just know that this diagram is not drawn to scale. One important thing about this diagram that is correct, though, is that the sun is at the center. And that was actually a big intellectual breakthrough to realize that. The sun is the center of the solar system. That idea, though, has not been held by most people throughout the history of the world. Throughout history, most people haven't even been aware of the solar system as we see it here in this picture. Most people have thought that the Earth was at the center. That has been the dominant view historically, what we call a geocentric system. Geocentric meaning Earth is at the center. Now, the ancient Greeks were aware of some things about the solar system. They were aware, for example, that there were planets. When you look at the night sky, you see the stars, and they're sometimes referred to as the fixed stars. Even though the stars are moving, the stars are so far away that we can't discern any motion from night to night, and even year after year. They all appear to stay in the same place relative to each other. But because the planets are moving around the sun, when we see the planets in the night sky, their position changes night after night relative to the background stars, or the fixed stars. And the Greeks were aware of this. They were aware of 5 planets, and they called them wanderers. The Greek word for planet actually means wanderer. And some of the Greek thinkers had some pretty good ideas. Aristarchus, for example, was able to make some measurements about the distance to the moon and the distance to the sun and the size of each of those. And he actually put forth the idea of a heliocentric system, that is, a sun-centered system, like we see in this picture. And a few other ancient thinkers from other cultures did also. But they were in the minority. The majority report throughout all of history has been a geocentric system. That has been the dominant view. And specifically, the geocentric system as described by Ptolemy, the Alexandrian astronomer. And we'll talk about Ptolemy and the Ptolemaic system in the next lecture.